The tragic end of King Solomon. What went wrong? We were introduced to a pivotal moment in King Solomon's life in the reading for Saturday morning's Mass. When given the chance to ask God for anything, Solomon chose wisdom over riches or glory. It depicts a man who is firmly anchored in God. However, Solomon eventually betrayed his first love, which resulted in a divided kingdom. It's a moral story with a cautionary tale for everyone. Let's go over Solomon's life's fundamentals and consider the teachings. The third king of Israel was Solomon. Another name for him was Jedediah, which means beloved of the Lord. His 40-year rule is considered the golden age of Israel. It was a time of great wealth and national cohesion, but his reign ended tragically when he started to persecute the populace, multiply his wives, and institute pagan rituals. David and Bathsheba had a second son named Solomon, but David also had sons from other wives. In reality, Solomon was the 17th of David's 19 sons. He was by no means the most likely son to become king after his father. However, Solomon was crowned king in 961 BC against the presumptive successor Adonijah, thanks to the court machinations of his mother and the assistance of Nathan the prophet, who both exploited David in his old age. Adonijah was put to death under pretenses by Solomon, who quickly and brutally established his authority over him. This action had an impact on Solomon's reign, as did the military executions or exiles of Adonijah's supporters. It produced somewhat annoying military opponents on Israel's northern border, which could account for Solomon's enormous army, as we shall see later. Solomon did receive a great deal of insight from the Lord. 1 Kings 4:30-32 adds that his wisdom surpassed all the inhabitants of the east, and also Egypt, and honors Solomon with 3,000 proverbs and 1,005 songs. Solomon wrote the biblical volumes of Proverbs, the Song of Songs, Wisdom, and Ecclesiastes, which contain many of them that have been passed down to us. Solomon was sought after for his wisdom and counsel by leaders from all over the world, including the Queen of Sheba. Solomon was renowned for being an excellent statesman who was able to establish commercial ties with other world leaders. During his rule, trade increased significantly. However, as he took numerous brides as a result of his foreign entanglements, they might have been the first indication of problems. This was standard procedure for monarchs at the time. Despite this, the book of Deuteronomy forbids monarchs from doing 3 things. Furthermore, the Lord has instructed you, you are not to go back that way again. So the king cannot amass a large number of horses for himself, or force the populace to return to Egypt to obtain more of them. His heart will be misled if he takes too many wives. He must not amass big sums of silver and gold. Deut. 17 and 16:17. All 3 of these directives were ultimately disregarded by Solomon. He had many wives. Solomon gathered a large number of women from the surrounding pagan lands. The Hittites, Moabites, Edomites, Sidonians, and Amorites were among his wives. You must not intermarry with them, because they will surely turn your hearts after their gods. The Lord had warned the Israelites of these countries. Solomon, however, clung to them out of love. 1 Kings 11:2. According to the Bible, he ultimately had 300 concubines and 700 brides. 1 Kings 11:3. This shows his foreign entanglements in addition to his lust. These pagan women ultimately have a detrimental effect on Solomon's own beliefs because they brought their heathen deities with them. During the temple's dedication, God forewarned Solomon, "But if you or your sons turn away from me and do not observe the commands and decrees I have given you, and go off to serve and worship other gods, then I will reject this temple I have consecrated for my name and cut off Israel from the land I have given them. At that point, Israel will become a byword and a target of mockery for all peoples." 1 Kings 9:6-7. Despite this warning, Solomon disregarded the Lord. He allowed pagan worship and altars to be constructed in Israel, even building them himself, out of lust, greed for trade, and infatuation with things foreign and heathen. 1 Kings 11. Of all his misdeeds, this was the most grievous. The author of 1 Kings indicates it is the main reason God turned his favor from Israel. Therefore, the Lord told Solomon, "I will take the kingdom away from you and give it to one of your subordinates because of your attitude and your failure to uphold my covenant and my decrees, which I directed you to accomplish. However, I will not do it while you are alive for David, your father. I will rip it from your son's hand. However, I will give him one tribe rather than the entire kingdom for the sake of Jerusalem, which I have chosen, and David, my servant. 1 Kings 11:13. He increased gold and silver. Solomon cemented a massive central administration that crossed across tribal boundaries. In addition, he launched a massive construction campaign that included the construction of the temple, a sizable royal complex, a palace, and fortifications. He constructed expansive, lavish structures. However, the combination of a large central government, an extravagant palace life, and extensive building projects weakened the national economy with high taxes and conscripted labor. The Queen of Sheba, who was fabulously wealthy herself, remarked on visiting Solomon, "Your wisdom and prosperity surpasses any report which I have heard." 1 Kings 10:7. Not only did the high taxes cause resentment, but the centralized and growing central government offended against the Jewish tribal system, which was used to a more local governance. Increasingly, Solomon offended against subsidiarity by interfering in local affairs through his officials. He multiplied horses. This is a Jewish idiom for amassing a big army. In taking the kingdom away from Adonijah, Solomon had acquired inveterate opponents from the military chiefs who had supported Adonijah. They frequently harassed Israel while camping in the north. Perhaps because of this, but mostly out of vanity, Solomon gathered a sizable army that included 1,400 charioteers and 12,000 horsemen. This despite never going to war during his reign. The difficulty with an excessively large army is not just that it is expensive, but it also requires a draft to force men into service. Some were resentful of this, and many men stopped working from home and being with their families. Epilogue. A divided kingdom was the legacy of his turning, as God had informed him. Solomon's increasingly repressive policies caused the kingdom of Israel to split from Judah during the reign of his son, Rehoboam. The 10 northern tribes had had enough and broke away from Judah when Rehoboam adopted his father's disastrous tactics. After the fall of the great undivided monarchy, Israel 721 BC and Judah 587 BC were invaded and destroyed in less than 200 years. Solomon's narrative is a morality tale and a depressing object lesson. Destruction results from disobedience to God. Solomon also consistently disregarded God. What caused Solomon to veer off course? Was it avarice? Indeed. Was it the foreign entanglements ignited by that greed and desire for power? Indeed. Was it corrupted by the globe that greed, international entanglements, and adoration of foreign ways caused? Surely. Was it passion? Of course. Was it lust that led to unsuitable marriages and relationships? Indeed. Did Solomon come to love the world more than God? Surely. Did passion and avarice compel him to make regular concessions with the world? Without a question. And slowly, probably without noticing at first, he started to turn away from God. However, if we are not cautious to stick to God's ways, any of us could have a similar experience to Solomon's. Human issues include lust, greed, and fascination with the outside world. I have witnessed people who are close to the Lord stray from him because of worldly concerns, unhealthy and misguided relationships, career dominance that overshadows vocation, and simply a buildup of negative influences from the internet and television. Prayer and mass attendance slip away. Bad moral behavior gets excused, and ever so subtly we turn less to God and more to the gods of this world. It is the road that Solomon trod. The great and wise Solomon was once close to God's heart and preferred nothing of the world to God's wisdom. But a guy who died drowned in wealth, sex, and power. A guy whose heart turned from God. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment below. Your support helps us keep creating content you'll love. Thanks for watching.